The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Haslar. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we're hearing the case of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer versus Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a 1964 animated musical special about a young reindeer whose differences leave him ostracized from his kind. Santa Claus is Coming to Town is a 1970s animated musical special about the origins of the mysterious annual gift giver known as Kris Kringle. You can absolutely tell that I have read this before.
I'm flawless. Amazing notes. I love it. Sight reading.
For those of you unfamiliar with our jolly court proceedings in civil cases like this, the counsel is presented to represent each film and will present the case as to why their client is the superior film. And ultimately, the jury will render its verdict as to which is the better film. The decision will hereby stand in all rankings and listicles from now on until the end of time, ad infinitum. That's right. Miss Kaleigh DuLac, you are representing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you. Esteemed people of the jury and most honorable judge, I bring to you the defense of a Christmas classic, one that has had regular airtime since it was first released in the mid-60s. This puppet stop-motion animation features the story to explain the infamous Christmas song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Filled with catchy songs and timeless artistry, this Christmas movie has been one of my most viewed since childhood and will continue to be, despite dated gender role sexism that rears its ugly head. One can hardly argue against such an amusing film for both adults and children, with multiple storylines of outsiders forging their own path. We cheer on Hermie the elf, who suffers the timeless struggle of wishing he could fit in, but ultimately staying true to himself and seeking out his internal happiness without the external validation of others. We feel Rudolph's heartbreak as his peers reject him for physical abnormality he was shamed for since birth. These two outcasts find each other and decide to go on an adventure to acceptance, guided and even protected by a charming prospector on the search for some life-changing discovery to bring him a fortune. One criticism of the movie is to call out the bullying from the peers and even Santa in the film, but ultimately the movie must show a degree of bullying that makes us uncomfortable so that we can side with the misfits of the story. Once we have cast our lot in with the misfits, we truly want to see their lives bettered. We, as the viewer, even identify with these misfits, so much so that the modern media, such as Perks of Being a Wallflower, and even mainstream culture, find it cool to claim to be part of the island of misfit toys. The cast of characters all find themselves and accept no compromises to their acceptance when others come to realize how wrong they were about making them feel unloved. Even the abominable snowman comes to be a beloved addition to the North Pole. Rudolph, as the story always goes, comes back into the fold and not only is loved and greeted with gratitude for his safe return, but he even finds himself the only one who can save Christmas. And keep in mind that this comes after the whole North Pole has cheered his return. As Yukon discovers peppermint is the riches he has been seeking his whole life, we see a nice rounded theme come to a tidy close, hammering in the point that what you needed is not always what you expect. On the conversive side, Santa Claus is coming to...
This is an opening statement. Do you have your exhibits further? Sorry, I didn't want
I have further exhibits, but I can pause.
Thank you very much.
Making that an opening statement now.
I'll fix it in post. Thank you, Mrs. DuLac. Appearing on behalf of Santa Claus is Coming to Town is Mr. Dylan J. Schlender. Please present your opening statement.
Sorry I'm late, Your Honor. The most amazing thing happened. Let me start at the beginning. Jeremy Black was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. However, as I will relay to you, he visited me last night and told me that I would see 3 ghosts, whom, for convenience sake, bear striking resemblance to members of this court.
Oh, no.
You see, Jeremy told me, as I was a hack in life, I would be a hack in death. My terrible verdicts and cases await me in the great beyond. To atone, I would have to compare 2 fine films, and to help, I would be visited by the aforementioned ghosts of Christmas specials past, Christmas specials present, and Christmas specials future. They would show me the way that Santa Claus is coming to town is the superior special to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And that is the story I am telling tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender.
Back of my hand.
Mrs. DuLac, you may present your first exhibit in defense of Rudolph.
All right, so I've already outlined a bunch of my defense now.
I apologize. You can blame it on me.
I did ask ahead of time from Ben for clarification.
And I was like, yeah, you just do this.
Terrible. All right, so what I have now is my
jury.
argument against Santa Claus is coming to town. So now this is a tough thing to do because Santa Claus is coming to town is truly a warm and fuzzy movie. Topper is adorable, and we definitely get a much healthier image of a true Santa Claus with his hearty chuckles. However, it simply does not compare. The songs are fun, but not nearly as catchy. Every year you hear Holly Jolly Christmas on the radio, but no one's singing the Burgermeister Meisterburger's difficult responsibilities.
Objection, they totally should.
But do they is what I'm calling into question.
Objection is overruled. I have never heard anyone.
We can't rate the popularity based off of one song. Santa Claus is Coming to Town is a tremendous hit.
That's a song that doesn't even play in the movie.
It plays at the end. Fred Astaire sings it.
Oh, during the credit scene? Okay.
It's a perfect reveal. The build-up was perfect.
Everyone does tune out during the credits, Mr. Schlender.
That is not true. They're walking in the streets with all the townsfolk and winter warlocks there. It's fantastic. And he's got that really cool mail truck. That's like half my case is how cool the mail truck is. I'll let Kaleigh continue.
All right, I would argue, too, that despite the acid trip of a slow song from the ingenue, there is little for an adult to cling on to in this movie. This might be why we see the endurance of Rudolph, including merchandise released every Christmas of our beloved Rudolph characters, and not a single topper or winter warlock on the shelves. Speaking of winter...
I want to object to the adult point, though, real quick, because you say there's nothing for the adults to cling on to, and that is objectively false. Kris Kringle is introduced as an orphan. He is rejected by his presumptive father, the Burgermeister Meisterburger, who then turns out to be the villain, and is taken in by the Kringles. So you have a very strong family element there, that search for love, that quest for acceptance, which is kind of talked about in Rudolph, though very ham-fistedly, but executed flawlessly in Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
I would like to hear a defense on that acid trip of a song, though, Mr. Schlender. What was that about?
Okay, so the year was 1970, and people were doing a lot of acid. I know. I've done the research. I pulled my mother aside. I said, "Mom, is this true? Did people do a lot of acid in the 70s?" And
she doesn't remember.
She doesn't remember it. So that was everything I needed to know. But no, that's true. That was just very of the era, and it does tend to get cut out when it gets rebroadcast. And remember, these specials need to be judged as if you were watching them in 1996 with the original Nesquik commercials.
Okay, a little context. Mr. Locke, you may present your next exhibit.
All right. Speaking of winter, if you please, which how hard is it to properly identify this man after so many years with his so-called friends? This is beside the point, though. Christmas is a Christian holiday, and they condemn witchcraft to the extreme. So don't we find it a bit suspicious that Santa Claus' main gifts come from a warlock who uses magic to make reindeer fly and teaches Kris Kringle to use magic himself by making Snowball to spy on people?
Objection. This is a decidedly secular interpretation of not only Santa Claus, but Christmas. All right,
Well,
they are not.
Given the Christian ending where they get married on the most holy of nights.
Okay, that's actually a good point.
got you there. He's got you there.
But everything Santa, so they get married to celebrate Jesus's birthday, right? But all of the explanations don't actually involve Jesus. So they're doing that as a way to pay respect. But all the Christian elements that are typically associated with Christmas that we see in something like the Charlie Brown Christmas Special are decidedly not utilized in Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So I don't think we can say that this is making a play at Christianity or is conflicting with Christianity, because I think it is decidedly secular.
I will leave that up to the jury to decide. I'm not convinced. All right.
Your next exhibit, please.
All right, but it all comes down to the fact that Santa Claus is Coming to Town is just frankly a little more boring. There's too much montage, too little real story arc other than an austere and criminally driven biography of Santa to answer some of the most asked questions on our children's favorite man. On this final note, I rest my case.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schlender, would you like to rebut some of the points I've made about Rudolph in the opening statement?
So I appreciate the hand waving that my distinguished colleague has engaged in, because I have also engaged in my own hand waving, but hers is much more egregious. We really can't ignore the bullying element that is present in Rudolph, and a lot of that has to do with the era it came out. I know we don't want to be terribly insensitive and impose too much of our own modern and superior thinking on those Luddites of the 60s.
Objection to the bullying. I mean, how can we condemn a movie for portraying exactly the song it was based on? I believe the writers were just constrained by this guideline. And
they were constrained by it, but I mean, you have Santa being a holly jolly jerk. That's not in the song.
Well, of course, Santa Claus would then arguably have to turn a blind eye or even condone it. Otherwise, it would have been shut down.
I think we see that Santa is not too plugged into the day-to-day operations. He disrespects his elves. He's not very polite to his own wife. He's just a straight-up jerk in this, and that is not from the song. And the facts of the movie will bear that out.
Well, Santa is not the main character in this, and, I can't really forgive some of the strange actions they have Santa take, but it's not unprecedented. I mean, look at Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Santa is over it in that movie as well.
Yeah, but he's sticking it to the man, the Burgermeister Meisterburger. He is being a scofflaw. He is being a rebel in a proud American tradition, even though this clearly takes place in some weird pre-post World War I Germany.
Bavarian.
Well, we'll let the jury decide, but I, for one, do not subscribe to this Kirk Cameron-esque interpretation that Santa was badass on either side. Mr. Schlender, you may present your first exhibit.
My first exhibit came to me in the form of the first spirit.
Please
he appeared... What? No!
Oh.
His head illuminated like a candle, with an extinguisher under his arm. Or so I thought, for you see, the spirit was merely bald, and it was the glare of the track lighting reflecting into my eyes, and that extinguisher was merely a carafe of sake. So, as we look at the past Christmas specials together, we see that Arthur Rankin Jr. is one of the original poobahs of television, and we do have to acknowledge that Rudolph helped set the stage for what we'd expect for Christmas specials to come. However, Rudolph, as I said, completely mangles Santa, the most important character in any Christmas story. Let's just get that out of the way.
Whoa!
And no,
more so than the Jesus man.
Yeah.
The Big J. I was trying to come up with a nickname on the fly, and I knew it wasn't going to work for me.
We're doing a secular Christmas over here, so.
Yeah, no, the little drummer boy sucks. I think we can all agree to that.
I'm not.
Okay.
The little drummer boy is not present to.
That is true. Just okay. So we all know that Saint Nicholas is really a paragon of goodness. So Rudolph has some really strange choices going on in this feature, right? Like exactly how long is Rudolph away for? I mean, it could be like as little as a year to like 5 years. Why does Yukon Cornelius try to murder the defanged Bumble? Why does the Bumble simply not use his superior strength and size to dispatch his enemies? And also, why is the doll that says, "How do you do a misfit?" Well, I did some research into that. The Ghost of Christmas Past took me to an interview with Arthur Rankin Jr., where he said she had psychological issues. How bad can we be, people? My goodness. And that's on top of the stipulated bullying, I will remind you. So I do understand we have to keep in mind that Rudolph was constrained by those song lyrics, but it handled it incredibly ham-fistedly, and it didn't stretch the imagination the way Santa Claus is Coming to Town does.
Mr. Luck, I did also not read the novelization of Rudolph and didn't know about the psychological issues of the doll. Could you explain this?
Again, I would cite another objection to that. Miss Dolly is not here to defend herself, nor has she been called upon today to testify about her disability.
And people would play with a Charlie in the box. All right.
All of these toys find loving homes at the end of the movie. There is resolution.
Originally, you know that had to be added after the fact because kids all over America were crying at the original special, and they added that in for subsequent viewings. Ooh. So if we're going with original to original, which I already said we don't have to do because look, it saves you a better ending and gets rid of my worst song. So I say we call it fair.
And yet you still called it into question here, and now the jury has this in their minds.
Well, they can think about it, but Judge, I move to strike.
Just fill the water pistol with besides jelly.
That's how it
Just fill it with water.
I'm waiting for our move to strike t-shirts to come out, though. That is one of my favorite phrases.
Well,
your next exhibit,
let me move on because you see the ghost of the past pieced out with one forlorn sigh, upturning his carafe to reveal it was empty. But I had more questions, like, weren't you going to sing? But the unmistakable smell of pancakes from my kitchen lured me downstairs.
I hope it's me.
And there was a hirsute man merrily humming while flapping his jacks. I asked him if he should be saying, "Come in, man, and know me better." But he pointed out that we have been friends since elementary school, and this joke is incredibly attenuated.
And all this happened.
So into Santa Claus is Coming to Town we flew. And what a holly jolly movie this is. Every phase is executed to near perfection. Getting an origin story is all the rage. So why not do one for Saint Nick? We learn of a fascinating lore as he battles and takes a stand against some weird Kaiser analog. Santa shines because it encourages speaking truth to power and violating unjust laws. It is literally the reason I smoke inside and jaywalk. After the Ghost of Christmas Special's presence stole my cigar and put it out with admonishment, he showed me the superior music numbers, which I will spare singing now in the interest of time, but I do have them written out in my notes. But the first toy maker to the king, and then to refrain to no more toy makers to the king, is brilliantly executed. This is high-level songcraft that you just don't get in Rudolph because these songs move the plot and they're interesting. You said, "Holly Jolly Christmas," everyone sings. Well, guess what? Has nothing to do with Rudolph. It was just Burl Ives being a snowman, being a holly jolly snowman. Added nothing to the plot the way Toy Maker to the King does, which is the superior song in either
Objection.
special.
Can you please tell me how one foot in front of the other adds anything to the plot of...
Because
or moved along the plot?
It puts 1 point in front of the other. It gets Winter Warlock on their team. That's the point, you see. So
I believe giving him the gift gave him the team.
And then it gave him the confidence to move forward in his new form because he said it wouldn't last. And Santa proved to him, just like Christmas magic, it will last. And then we find out that Winter does have more magic as it goes on. He lets the reindeer fly. He lights up the Christmas tree. And then at the end, he comes strolling along. He's like, "Hey, I got my magic back." And everyone's thrilled for him. And it was all because he put one foot in front of the other.
Baby steps.
Absolutely.
Objection is overruled. Yeah, I'll let that stand.
So while we were joyously singing the songs, I noticed the ghost fading away. "Are you dying, Spirit?" I asked. And he said, "No, you ask. I've just been losing a lot of weight lately. Now stop this tired bit and get to your third point." So I turned around, and I saw clad in a robe with hair over his eyes, the ghost of Christmas specials.
This
future.
one's Ryan.
I feared this spirit most of all because he probably knows more about these movies than I do, and he looked decidedly unsympathetic. The spirit pointed to a dusty computer screen, and I brushed away to see a spreadsheet, and it showed Rudolph highlighted as the winner. Oh, spirit, is this a vision of verdicts to come or the verdicts that may be? The spirit made to reply, but I definitely interjected. I will focus on how Santa Claus set the stage for specials coming after, allowing for interesting looks at how Santa can be viewed, to see his origin in features like Santa Claus in the movie. And again, the spirit went to reply, probably to agree with me, so I just plowed through and said, and let's not forget the Tim Allen movies owe this with their naturalistic turn that they would take in the sequels. Oh, spirit, surely the jury will have to concede that the legacy of these movies, while great, is much more on the shoulders of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The spirit maybe got out the word well before it was all clear to me. Santa Claus is Coming to Town has to win because Santa represents the reason for the season in ways that is redolent of Charlie Brown's special or The Grinch. It is about giving and love, not the taking and strife we see in Rudolph. Thank you, spirit, I said, and it was there I awoke, but to rest my case.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Mrs. DuLac, is it redolent or is it reductive?
Damn, that's a great way to ask that question.
I believe that opening our Christmas spirit to everything that Christmas truly represents. Do we need to all pare it down just to Santa Claus bringing us gifts? Or can we look at Rudolph and his friends finding ultimate happiness inside themselves? I mean, I certainly view the Grinch more than I view Santa Claus when I'm an adult at Christmas, even at, I still love watching Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I am going to admit that. However, I don't find Santa Claus to be the penultimate of Christmas as an adult. As a kid, maybe, but only up until a certain point. And don't we want to carry that Christmas spirit on beyond just the ages of, what is it, 6 years at most in which we believe Santa?
Yeah, right. Yeah, six sounds fair. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about Santa Claus is Coming to Town, though. We go with Santa through his whole life. So I do believe there are elements that you keep coming back to this point about how adults can enjoy Christmas. And I think this idea that adults can't enjoy the story of Santa, and as heavily contrived as it is in this movie to be fun and to be silly, we could see his real growth. We see him grow up to be a strong boy who promises his adoptive mother, he's like, I'm going to be strong enough to do these things that you can't do. It is a beautiful message, and he helps those who cannot help themselves, those children, giving them joy in their life. He even put joy in the Burgermeister's life. The only one who doesn't get any love is the lawmaker, and I love that little guy with his nose and mustache and hilarious voice. I mean, I think Santa Claus is Coming to Town has something for everyone in every phase of their life because we follow Santa through every phase of his life, from being an abandoned orphan to an immortal gift giver.
I hear that, but I also don't see a lot of maturity in Santa. The only mature people that I'm finding in here are the people that surround Santa Claus. He feels like a man-child pretty much the entire movie.
I don't think he has
believe that even grew.
I don't think he has that Peter Pan-esque quality. I think you see him marrying Jessica as being something that does kind of help settle him down, right? Because the injustice of the Burgermeister is really what starts driving him. So while he's young, he wants to fight. And as he gets older, that's when he starts settling down. That's when he realizes he can only do it one night a year. So I don't think he stays this man-child. I think he goes through several stages of masculinity that will resonate with many people.
Well, that may be a fair point. It certainly isn't my favorite Santa Claus origin story, or the explanations that they pull up just feel odd and thin. I've seen many Santa Claus explanation origin stories that made me feel warm and fuzzy. Klaus, for example. This one, however, felt much to be desired, and very austere, and some of the explanations even felt like quite the stretch.
I believe you can learn how to laugh from a seal.
Well, thank you. Both sides have rested their cases. Mrs. DuLac, you may present your closing argument, assuming your judge friend who gave you bad advice didn't ruin that for you.
No, I can think on the fly, sir. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a fun and colorful film with catchy music to dance along to every year. Finding true friendships and inner happiness is the point. Our characters are relatable, complex, and all have a sound, happy resolution. There are no veiled historical resentments for Germany drabbing down this holly jolly movie. What more could you ask for in a Christmas classic?
Veiled threats to Germany. I'm sorry, keep going.
I am finished, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. DuLac. Mr. Schlender, you may present your closing argument. Maybe you're overly prepared with a closing to this Christmas Carol of yours.
Oh, you think so, Ben? You think he's going to do more of this gimmick he's been doing the whole night?
Well, as the ghost of Christmas special's future faded away, I threw open my window to see a startled Bobby appear. "Why am I here?" he asked. And I had to tell him I used Jeremy in an earlier bit and we don't have a deep bench. But what day is it? What day is it? It is December 21st, of course. Of course it is. Oh, the spirits did it in one night. Of course they did. They did it all in one recording.
Of course they did.
So after I ran around town doing various good deeds, and I arrived here in court, and that's why I was so late, Your Honor. You have to believe me, it was all true. However, let's not lose sight of this case. Santa Claus is Coming to Town is the superior holiday special. We see more refined animation, so they take what Rudolph had and we built on it. We see an engaging story with little confusion or odd, desperate messaging that we see in Rudolph. And we have better music that drives the plot and isn't just an excuse to shove Santa Claus is Coming to Town into it, because as we pointed out, it was expertly used at the end of the movie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender, although I do see your car out there and it has parking tickets on there, so I don't think you were in quite the rush you claim to be. Members of the jury, Mr. Maynard Bangs, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. King Moonraiser, Ryan Luis Rodriguez.
Sweet.
Nice.
King Moonraiser. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine which film is the superior special. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. Right this way. Just put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking through that deliberation door.
He did get singing.
All right.
It was a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
All right. Another Yuletide holiday classic case. We always get stuck putting these two great holiday classics against each other.
Stuck.
I'd like
Just
to
the
hear
guy who
first,
suggests them all.
Oh, well, I'm a bad little boy. I'd like to hear from Ryan.
Well, before watching these two in succession, I was a big Rudolph proponent. And in watching it, like just the little nuances of the stop motion animation, like the shifting snow beneath Sam as he moves across the tundra, is a miracle. The fuzz on Rudolph is just adorable. And then you get to like the Abominable Snowman, and I think, well, they did that better in Monsters, Inc., which is a much better movie than Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then you get to the message, which is that it's okay to be prejudiced unless whatever you're against can work in your benefit. Then watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and immediately it's hitting me in the feels. Paul Frees, Fred Astaire, Keenan fucking Wynn. And the pacing is lightning quick in comparison. And I love the fact that Santa Claus gets a superhero origin story that is better than any comic book could ever come up with for this character. I love that literally every single part of the mythos is explained in some way. And even if the explanations are completely ludicrous, it had me completely hook, line, and sinker.
I figured that the explanations were supposed to be ludicrous. So although Kaleigh brought them as a detractor, I thought they were supposed to be silly.
you don't feel like they like open up more questions. Like it's like, okay, but if this ice spirit is involved in some way, how come we never hear about him? You know,
but do you think it's really exists to really explain the origins of Santa, or it's just a funny thing?
Well, it acts like it is. I mean, that's like the whole setup of it, right? Where the guy's coming in and like, hey, I seem to know everything about Santa. Let me fill you out on the deets.
It's Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire,
yeah. he's a postman, and I didn't hear anything cool about his car. I was promised cool things about his snow truck, and I didn't hear a lot. But it is cool. It is a cool mail truck. Ryan, hot seat. Which one is the catchier songs?
Santa Claus. Santa Claus, much better. Because Rudolph, everybody knows Rudolph. Everybody knows that song. It's iconic for a reason, but Santa Claus has more varied songs. Like there's much more of a cornucopia of stuff that you can explore with that. So I would have to put that definitely in the lead.
Ben, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I do not like either one of these. I did not grow up with these specials, so I have no nostalgia coming into them. I saw Rudolph, I think, for the first time maybe 6 years ago, and I had not seen Santa Claus is Coming to Town at all. And like the way that people just sort of love these things, it was always like this weird feeling for me, like if Home Improvement did a stop motion thing or Community does a stop motion thing, like they don't resonate with me. It wasn't a part of my childhood. And any defense I hear people give of them is usually like rooted in the fact that they grew up with them. When I watch them, I end up with more questions than I had coming in. Why is Santa such a jerk? You know, all this stuff that people just seem to kind of, it doesn't matter. It's for kids. They kind of hand wave it away in that way. So if you grew up with it, I'm happy for you. I don't like them. I didn't like either one. And seeing that I saw them like 3 days ago, most of it has slipped right off my brain because there's nothing of substance here except for like the general messages that they try to convey. And anything that anyone says, like it's not clever enough for it to stick with me. So I'm very torn on this one.
What did you grow up with? Like the really severe, like very strict Christian specials?
Yeah, well, Charlie Brown Christmas special for sure. A Christmas Story.
Oh wow, that one's surprising. They let that one, but not Rudolph. Interesting. What did you think of the animation, though? I mean, obviously you don't like a story, but I mean, the stop motion animation, you must.
It's fine.
Cool.
I think it's a little weird and dated. Like it's, but yeah, it's fine. It doesn't do much for me.
All right. And which one do you think had catchier songs?
Well, as far as new songs, written for that special, that would be Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
The second one.
Yeah, I'm excluding Rudolph and of course like the main songs that they kind of base themselves off of. But as far as what was written for it, yeah, it's Santa.
Well, I looked it up because I was curious about Holly Jolly Christmas, and this gets Holly Jolly Christmas. This is what puts it on the map. I mean, it's not exactly written for this, but it's basically released as part of this soundtrack. So this gets put into the rotation from this. For my own benefit, the song that I've been singing the most since watching these a couple of days ago has been One Foot in front of the other. But there are some real draggers in that one. The LSD
that
Love song
one. Oh my
is
gosh,
lame.
what the hell was that about? What the hell was that about?
Shunzo's right. It's acid. Everyone's on acid. It's okay
Why does it stop
if people are on acid.
Dead?
How do you think we got to the fucking moon, Ben?
What was she even singing about? Like it has no point.
It was kind of trippy, and you had to let the like they said, you had to let the ingenue have the song. But the one character that confused me the most in Santa is Topper, actually, because I don't know what he's supposed to be an explanation of. I didn't know Santa hangs out with penguins or anything like that.
And he doesn't really do anything either. He doesn't like serve a purpose in the story that I remember.
Never that to me that shoe never drops. It's
he's
his
just
idea
cute. To go down the chimney.
Could have been a lot of people.
You're not in this room.
But so anyway, someone once told me it was because he thought of going down the chimney. I think that's pretty weak myself. I'm not sure. What is a penguin going down a chimney, you know? Like, what if he had met a small urchin boy who was a chimney sweep and he told him to go down the chimney? Now, that makes a lot more fucking sense. If that lawyer was in here, I would have told him that. Anyway, so let's start locking in, Ryan.
Santa Claus.
All right. Okay. So straight into the point. Rudolph can go to hell. Is it the bullying? See, I think the bullying stuff is strange that we were talking about. I'm going to go to
The
Ben's
bullying is weird, and yeah, especially like as Ryan said, like the fact that it's like, oh, once you serve a purpose to me, now you're okay with me. I
mean, that's
hate
the song. I mean, that is the.
I know that's the song, but like that should be coming from the reindeer, not from Santa. You know,
I agree. It's weird that Santa's not to me really a bully as much here. He hopes the nose will go away when he's first a baby, and then he seems to let the reindeer sort of govern themselves. So if they don't want Rudolph on the team, Santa's like, fine, like what? I don't
society.
care. yeah, exactly. Like the reindeer have their own thing going on. Santa doesn't have to tell them what to do. But I think it's nice that Rudolph is allowed back in before he actually saves Christmas, right? It's just because he's a good, honest dude. But yeah, to me, the bullying is condemned, right? Like the point of it is that bullying is wrong. So you have to make it bad before you condemn it, I would think. Ben, you lock in. What do you got?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of the arguments. I was too busy reffing and I didn't write anything down. I don't know. I think Rudolph like sort of sets a stage better. I think it like because of it, we have all the rest of the specials. And Santa Claus is sort of coasting on a lot of that and probably the other ones that followed Rudolph's success. On the other hand, last year, Mrs. DuLac voted against my very fantastic case against Charlie Brown, so screw her.
Well, you don't hold on to grudges.
Don't hold a grudge.
I've been holding on to it all year. No, I'm going to go for Rudolph. I think that it serves its aims a bit better than Santa Claus is Coming to Town does, because Santa Claus is Coming to Town is just so out there and weird. It's got too much going on, and it doesn't really answer any questions. It just makes crap up.
I'm sorry, are you saying that weird is a negative? Weird is a positive.
Weird is okay if it has direction, if it serves a purpose, but it doesn't in this. It's just like, hey, let's just make up things to fill time.
Exactly.
Not to,
I love it too.
Well said, Ryan. But I'm going for Rudolph. Maynard, you can decide.
I like Santa. I think that the reason that all the explanations are silly is it's a kid's Christmas special. It's supposed to be irreverent. You just put it on for 20 minutes and we laugh at the silly explanations for the character that doesn't have an origin, right? Because it's a bunch of pagan rituals and all stuff slapped together. I think it's funny that they just sort of, throw it under on the story. But I think both arguments didn't really sway me either way. I think they kind of preached the choir. That is the way I see both specials. And I am going to lean towards Rudolph because Rudolph has a lot of monsters like the Bumble and Charlie in the Box and King Moonrazer. So that's a lot of cool creature designs too, in addition to stuff. I find every character in Rudolph really endearing. And I don't actually really like too many of the characters in Santa. I like Santa. I don't think he's a man-child. I think he's actually really responsible over and over throughout it. But so is Rudolph. And there's more monsters, so I'm going with Rudolph. So we should get out there, huh, Brian? Tell that very handsome judge.
That's actually up to you, not me.
Well, I think we should go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
He is handsome. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer versus Santa Claus is Coming to Town, we find in favor of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
The verdict is so rendered. Rudolph is to be considered the superior short, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town is sentenced to 7 years hard time on the island of misfit shorts. Court is adjourned.
Ho, ho, humbug! This is Grumbly Grumblerson unleashed upon a fiery hellscape known as Christmas, and here to piss in your eggnog. Kaleigh DuLac, I've completely forgotten if you won or not. Tell me how you feel about the jury's verdict.
I think it was a tough case and a hard decision, but I think that in the end, siding with Rudolph was the call. We see the endurance of Rudolph in today's day and age. I know multiple people who reference Rudolph and very few who reference Topper, Winter Warlock, and Jessica. So I think they definitely went with the right movie here, and I'm feeling very warm and fuzzy.
Aw.
That makes me uncomfortable. Dylan J. Schlender, my second least favorite lawyer here at the Reels of Justice. You had the easier lift this week.
Wait.
How are you feeling?
Well, when it comes to these two specials, I find myself going back and forth on them because I love them both so dearly. I watch them every year, probably multiple times every year. And I was really excited to have the opportunity to defend Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It is hard to defend that LST song. I mean, like I said, growing up with it, that's usually cut, and I think these are probably best watched if you can, like, find an old VHS tape that you made when you were a youngster and pop that in. But it was a good holly jolly fight. I got to tip my hat to Kaleigh. She did a wonderful job presenting Rudolph, and I think we can all retire and have a Merry Christmas now. Thank you.
I just woke up. I'm out to celebrate with my favorite holiday companion, Timothy C. Grinch, and I don't care how you feel about that. Grumblerson out!
And he flew away in a 1997 Dodge Caravan.
The spectacular sound effects inserted by Mr. Maynard.
Yes, I heard it. But fun little case. I think this is a tough one. It's such a good ensemble of characters that they both have.
Oh yeah, there's just nothing really wrong with either of them. So like last year except the acid song. God, that's so terrible. So we did Charlie Brown and the Grinch last year, and then I think those are like the 1A, 1B Christmas specials to me, and then these ones are kind of like the immediate like runner-ups. So
I think Frosty's on this tier too and could have been thrown in here.
I don't even know. I feel like Frosty doesn't even compare. It's so childish.
Well, for the best part, no money, no ticket.
I like Frosty.
Haven't seen it, but you just sold me off of it. Not gonna watch it.
How have you not seen these Christmas specials, Ben? This is explained so much.
I kid you not. My dad had two Christmas movies that we watched every year: A Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation. Those were the only Christmas movies ever.
Man,
just those two.
I hate those too.
Not even Santa Claus.
Neither of those are that good.
John
no.
Lithgow,
I hate them both.
Yeah. Oh man, so many good specials.
Well, to be fair though, I mean everyone like has like their warm Christmas blanket, that like this is my nostalgia, this is my whatever that ends up being, like that's the one.
That's
you watch
true,
these every year.
As long as you still you revisit those and you like them. But you
revisit these and they're terrible. But you watch them every year.
Wow.
They are not. I've seen them even through nostalgia glasses. I really like the animation. I like the voice work. I like the character design. I like the stories. They're silly, but again, they're kids' stories. They're supposed to be silly. I feel like we're being really hard.
Well, I don't like that argument. Like if you're just saying like, oh, it's kids, therefore I don't have to care. Like look at Miyazaki.
Some things
films.
are made for kids.
Well, you can
Miyazaki's made for kids, or high-end Pixar's made for kids. And there's care to put into the story in this. There's lessons.
Stupid
this
as
is
hell.
just like. This is just to keep the kids busy for an hour, like while we go make cookies in the kitchen.
You're trying
it's
to
a
argue.
cat bus, Ben. A cat bus doesn't make any sense. It's a kids'
It's a
movie.
spirit of
It's just a
Japan.
cat
You don't
bus.
know. You don't know Japanese yokai is your problem.
Cat buses. It's just a cat bus.
But even look at like the production value of both of those. I mean, I can't imagine they're throwing like too much money at these shorts,
and you get tremendous value from it.
It's like Ryan was pointing out too, like the animation techniques, like using the little bit of sand to make it look like the fish are coming out of the water, stuff like that. I mean, like it's just tremendous effort.
It's just so visually appealing. Every bit of it is so beautiful.
Yeah, and that's why they're going to last forever. And despite Ben's protest.
Stop motion is the pinnacle of cinema.
I agree. Thank you, Ryan. Yes. I agree. And then right after that, Soupmation. And that is all how we all feel.
If only Ray Harryhausen directed a Christmas special. You'd get your monsters if you stop motion.
One of the Sinbad movies, they go up to like Antarctica. So there
Sinbad celebrates Christmas?
Oh, hell yeah, of course. Totally would.
Yeah, that would be great, actually.
The Christmas Voyage of Sinbad? Let's make it.
Dude, we've got it.
Okay. So, Kaleigh, what has been keeping you busy? Please tell us. What could be keeping Kaleigh busy since last time we saw you?
I don't know. This year's been pretty, dull. Not much has changed around here. Yeah, no, I have a baby. She's pretty.
Congratulations.
Probably the best thing since sliced bread. So,
fantastic.
Even better
she's
than
awesome.
sliced bread, maybe.
I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you already starting the Christmas specials in the rotation?
Yeah, well, we're not doing screen time, but I've been singing them to her and playing with little puppets on my fingers of only the Rudolph cast so far. Like I said, there really isn't.
I am going to find that child a topper plush and mail it to you.
I don't know anything about babies, so I had no idea you can't just sit them in front of TVs. I'm pretty sure it's what they did to me, and I came out okay. It's what they did to me, and I came out TV. But that's cool. Now, Kaleigh, we always ask for recommendations for movies that you think people should see. So what is a holiday movie that you think people should see?
So I believe, going along with the theme, A Year Without a Santa Claus is a fantastic follow-up to these two movies. Santa is also kind of an asshole in this one. And Santa Claus's whole crew, get to really showcase why Christmas is special. Another little tip to why Santa's not necessarily the most important character of Christmas, because sometimes other people can bring joy and magic to Christmas, not just the one man. And I also really just find the Misers songs to be so catchy. I sing them every year and get them stuck in my head, even not during Christmas time.
Yeah, the Misers absolutely steal that thing, but it's so hard to revisit because whenever they're not on screen, it is really slow.
It's like the worst version of Blue Christmas, too, I've ever heard. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard Elvis's. So Kaleigh, you've got a Secret Santa. So who did you get for Secret Santa? You can come in there and get.
It looks like I got Dylan as my Secret Santa.
All right. Well, thank you. Oh, wow. This is a big one. Let me open it up here. And it's a complete set of Die Hard Christmas ornaments. Now, I know this has been settled, but I just feel this is just to get under my skin at this point.
It is settled law, though.
But you know what, though? It is the thought that counts. Thank you, Kaleigh. Hug.
Did she mention that was from both of us?
Schlender, since it was your Secret Santa, you can give your recommendation.
I'll give my recommendation. All right. So sometimes there are specials that are, well, they're just bad. And 2000's Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer could be considered one of the worst.
Nope.
But it is still special to me. It was one of the last holiday specials I stayed up late to watch as a kid. And since then, it's always been in my holiday rotation, but more as a way to ease out of the Christmas spirits. You watch the bangers. You watch the Charlie Brown, the Grinch, the Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You got to make sure the Muppet Christmas Carol's in there somewhere too. And then you're at peak holiday spirits. It's late on Christmas. You're still kind of in the mood. You put on Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and it's just silly, ridiculous. Doesn't make a lot of sense at all, really. And then it's over, and you just kind of realize, okay, the holiday's done. I can look forward to taking down the tree and moving on with my life and having a happy new year. And I don't know if this is streaming anywhere, but like all specials, if you can find it on YouTube with some original commercials, it's probably going to be the best way to watch it.
With Nesquik commercials.
Absolutely.
Who'd you get for Secret Santa?
Well, I am glad you asked. I got the biggest man in the court, Big Ben himself. Wheel it in, boys. No.
You had me last year. Oh, please don't let it be another podcast. Please don't let it be another podcast. Please don't let it. Oh, damn it. It's a jump drive with all the episodes from his newest podcast, Cage Match, a podcast that pits all of the Nicolas Cage films against all of the Nicolas Cage films. Season 1 is Ghost Rider, versus all 115 other Nick Cage films. Thank you,
Yeah,
Daniel.
you
I'll be
just
sure to
created
give
a new
this to a listen.
sub-format on this show. We are doing Cage Match. We are gonna start putting Cage matches, Cage films versus Cage films. We're doing it.
That's awesome. I'll call Jeremy right now. He said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Jeremy Black's not actually dead. That was a joke."
Oh, he's fine.
Yeah, he's great. He's having a wonderful Christmas in London.
I hope.
God, I hope
Talk
so
to him
too.
today.
I'm going to send him a message. And my recommendation this Saturnalia season is a bit of an oddball that came out last year, Adult Swim's Yule Log. Whatever you end up thinking about this film, you have to give the movie this. It goes for things. It starts out brilliantly. A guy rents out a cabin and films one of those kind of idyllic Yule logs that people sort of play on their TVs to simulate having a real one. And then in a found footage way, a murder happens while he's out. Murders who echo, to me, Home in the X-Files, one of the best episodes, which is all the more reason to see it. He and his girlfriend come back while the killers are still in the house. And the camera's autofocus goes back between their dramas, they hash it out in the living room, and a reflection that shows the murderers kind of hiding in a back room. It's fan-friggin-tastic. Then the movie takes a hard series of turns, and I don't want to spoil the rest of it. Suffice to say, it explores very radical ideas in its second half that are absolutely unlike anything you have seen before, for better or worse. But while all of it doesn't work for me, I certainly appreciate its originality. So have yourself a scary little Christmas with this Gentleman's Seven.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I've been, friend of the podcast, William Tokarski, appeared in that.
Oh,
did he?
So,
I didn't know
yes.
Fantastic.
He may be some kind of murderer in it. Almost certainly. He's almost always a murderer whenever he's on
I mean,
screen.
He
looks
is
a
in Too
lot
Many
like a
Cooks.
murderer.
He's the murderer in Too Many Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And Ryan, I didn't have time to wrap your gifts, but I put a whole bunch of bows on it, so you'll just have to peel them all off one by one.
Okay, peel, crunch, crunch. Oh, wow, it's Kate Blanchett's costume test from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. How did you know that's exactly what I wanted, you Dickens? Where do you get these things?
Told me.
My recommendation concerns a director we actually covered in this court some months back, Alexander Payne, 2023's The Holdovers. It stars Dylan's favorite actor, Paul Giamatti, as a teacher at a prestigious boarding school tasked with chaperoning a wise-ass student abandoned by his family over the course of the Christmas holiday in 1970. The film is aesthetically designed to feel like it was made at the turn of that decade, from dirt speckles on the print to retro logos for film distributors that did not exist at the time, even optical titles that jitter ever so slightly. But in terms of the film itself, it boasts a tremendous supporting performance by Divine Joy Randolph as the campus cook who recently lost her son in Vietnam, and Giamatti is obviously excellent in a role that requires him to gradually lower the walls he puts up in front of his fellow humans in a way that feels organic and earned. It's frequently sentimental, but not in a cloying way, and it almost made me cry. Therefore, it is my fourth favorite film of the year. The Holdovers is currently in theaters, but if you're a bum and refuse to help out your local cinema, it'll be streaming on Peacock soon.
You're right, it is me. I'm going to stream it from home, but because Ryan recommended it. So otherwise I wouldn't have seen it. And who'd you have as Secret Santa, Ryan?
I have you bum.
You sound really excited about it. All right. Oh, this is a very nice box.
Let it be a gift certificate to his local cinema.
Oh my god, it's a pair of aviators that can see through time. I always wanted one. Thank you, Ryan. Isn't that fucking awesome?
So cool.
I know. It's almost like you could have picked whatever you wanted. My recommendation this week is another Christmas special from the era, actually a little before. One that maybe gets too overlooked, Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol from 1962. It's a retelling of the classic Dickens story, presented as an insanely elaborate stage play, starring the nearsighted Magoo as Ebenezer Scrooge. One interesting alteration this version made was to put the Ghost of Christmas Present first, before past, introducing the Cratchits and Tiny Tim even earlier in the story. I thought it was an interesting idea and keeps Scrooge less relatable until later in the film. Besides being animated, it's also a musical, though the songs aren't that memorable. Mr. Magoo is one of my grandfather's favorites, though, but I was surprised that they didn't do many of the nearsighted gags within the play itself. For whatever reason, Scrooge Magoo's vision works absolutely fine when he's performing, but not before or after the play. Anyway, keep this one in the yearly rotation. Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol is currently streaming on Peacock!
So I was telling you about the Flintstone Christmas Carol. That's also done as a play. So they must have been aping from this.
There's some weird stuff that they're aping that I think.
Wait,
must
are
be
you
one
saying
of
that the
old
Flintstones
movies.
is a ripoff of some kind? I can't even imagine.
One of these days, Ryan, bang, boom, straight to the moon. Now, my Secret Santa, I got Kaleigh. So here you go, Kaleigh.
Oh, thank you. Interesting packaging, almost as if you just ran out and grabbed this. Oh,
Never.
okay.
Take off my jacket.
It's a ripped soundtrack of Santa Claus is Coming to Town and a bucket to wash my gray stockings with a note that says, to get into the Christmas spirit. Well, gee, thank you.
That sounds like me. That's excellent.
Buckets.
I could have gotten something for the baby.
You know what might be nicer, Maynard, is those aviators that can see into the future.
Well, what will I ever do with this diamond emblazed baby stroller now? Oh, well. But with that, we are all out of show, but we want to thank our guest, Kaleigh DuLac, for joining us. Thank you so much, Kaleigh.
Thank you for having me. As always, love these Christmas specials.
Yes, we love having you back as like a whole family get together, and it's nice. And we hope that everyone else is enjoying the holidays with their family or loved ones or dogs or whoever you spend it with. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from all of us. And we hope all of you will join us again as well as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Ho, 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 count it.
Meisterburger.
Don't you mean,
Well, no one wants a Charlie in the box.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.